friends, and welcome back to the Sunshine Cafe. I'm Lisa Roers, your host, and today I have the great honor of welcoming Cynthia Maselli to the show. She is a brand strategist. She's also a business mentor, and she's a podcast host. She helps people step into their God-given identity and share their gifts with confidence. She's worked with entrepreneurs and all sorts of creatives to help build authentic brands that really reflect not just what people do, but also who they are. She has such a unique way of sharing her unique gift and her heart for helping others so they can live authentically and align their work and life and all the things with their values and really embrace that unique story that God's given them. So if you have ever felt stuck, stretched thin, or just a little lost on what exactly your calling is, this episode is going to encourage you to find the freedom that you need and the clarity to step into that next right step. So go ahead and grab some coffee, settle in. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Sunshine Cafe, where we pour positive back into the world and elevate how you lead life with encouraging and faith-aligned conversations. Let's dive in. Cynthia, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me on.
Brand strategy sounds like at the surface, it just sounds so businessy, brand strategy. But if we think about it, it's a really personal thing. And it's important for us to take some time to look at it because how we think of ourselves and how we present ourselves to the public, to the outer world, are not, first of all, they're not always the same thing. And secondly, sometimes the way we look at ourselves isn't the way other people see us. So spending some time diving into that is really valuable for both setting our own direction and the direction of our company. So let's start kind of in that brand strategy space and let's talk about how you started in that world.
Absolutely. Well, the way that I started in that world was it happened through a conversation that I had with a friend. And at that time, I was a new mom. My background and my education was in marketing and advertising and psychology and business. So naturally, this is not necessarily a surprise path that I went on, except I really never had planned to launch my own agency. And so that conversation with a friend, she was encouraging me. She said, Cynthia, you give your advice for free all the time. I think you should probably consider starting a business. And again, at that time, I was a new mom and I thought, oh, that sounds so overwhelming on top of what I'm doing. And my priorities were really to be a mom. And I was so excited about that. And so at that point, I decided, maybe I should kind of just take a step back and just let it play out naturally and organically. And so I actually sent a text message to my network and I said, I'm launching this business and these are the services I'm going to offer. If you or someone you know might be interested, feel free to reach out, let me know. And within a couple of weeks, I had a full roster that I could handle at that time. And it honestly took off ever since. And it had been word of mouth. And it wasn't until a few years later that I finally had a chance to build my own website and create an online presence. But I was so honored that people were trusting me, never really actually seeing my work other than whatever was told to them. And that's how the brand strategist came to be.
Yeah, I think so many times when you're like building a business or someone even has the idea too, you think, oh, I've got to have the website. I got all the ducks in the row and all the things together. And you just like dove in and found clients. And then, oh yeah, maybe a couple years later, I should maybe have a website. I love that you didn't, worry about all the details being just perfect before you just made it happen.
Well, and I think that so often when we're launching a business, there are times where we don't actually stop to really assess and evaluate, is there a need for what I'm going to launch? Or are there people that could easily just be drawn to this business instead of putting myself in a position of, I just invested all this money, so now I have to make it work. And you just try to put, a square peg into a round hole. It's so hard and it's so frustrating and stressful. And I didn't want to go down that path. And I had worked for businesses from small nonprofits to a large international corporation. So I saw the back end of multiple sizes of businesses. And so I saw that the foundation of the business really was what was going to help make or break the company for the long term. And so I decided if I'm going to ever launch a business, I need to make sure that I'm doing it the right way and that feels comfortable for me. And at that point as a mom, I also had made a decision that I needed to lean into the rhythm and the flow of my life in that season. And I wanted to make sure that whatever I was doing was going to fit that, and I wasn't going to force anything, because I just found that if I just allowed my season to unfold naturally and I find the rhythm for it, because it'll be ever changing, then I found a lot more joy and I was a lot less stressed.
Yeah, that's a great point that you made. I actually made a note on that because I I think we have a tendency to just look at successful people, find the successful recipe or the, whatever concoction that person did to be successful, and then we try to emulate it. However, I think the path to success is almost as unique as the gifts that each person has. And like you
I
said,
agree.
yeah, like your time, your season was not in a space where you could have taken a cookie cutter approach from someone else's business plan. You needed your own approach. So, how do you coach your clients through that process?
Well, when I am working with a client and they're coming to me, quite often we are addressing things that are on the back end of their business, because whether I'm designing the brand identity or website design, or of course, when I'm consulting clients, but even if I'm working on visuals in the creative part of it, I walk them through a process. So I send them a questionnaire. It has very specific questions that I'm looking to have them answer. So it gives me insight about where they see their business, not just today, but in 5, 10 years. Then at that point, sometimes you're just kind of piecing it all together and you're trying to figure it out along the way. And a lot of entrepreneurs didn't necessarily start out thinking they would become an entrepreneur. Quite like myself, I loved business, I loved marketing, but I always just envisioned myself working for companies. And my story just kind of unfolded in a very unexpected way. But I think that's the fun part about life, is those unexpected plot twists, right? And it worked out. And I've been in business for years now, and I'm so grateful for it. But working with clients and just helping them realize that there are sometimes missing gaps in their business and the foundation of it. And so it's really just helping them think beyond the logo design that they think that they want or they need, or the website that they want to be beautified and just look pretty, or at least competitive to someone else that has the same product or service. And let's think bigger than whatever you think the focus is, and let's ask the why questions, and that will tell you how to get there. And success isn't necessarily a formula. I mean, it definitely isn't going to be imitated, because every one of us is so unique. Even with serving businesses in the same industry, not one business that I've worked on has ever been an exact duplicate of another.
Well, and that's actually encouraging for all of us because, so many times it's like, well, I can't go into that realm of work because there's already X number of competitors in that industry, but nobody's going to do it just like you do, which makes it completely new and unique business.
Yes, I mean, in my industry, there are so many brand designers and website designers. And so what makes my company different than others? I just service them in a certain way. What is your competitive edge at the end of the day? What makes you or your product better than the others out there? And that's when you're starting to get closer to what success is, because then the word of mouth will start to spread and the buzz around all of that. And you can continue to just be you. Your business can continue to be what you want it to be. You don't have to force anything, because the natural momentum will inevitably pick up.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, so I'm imagining one of our listeners out there right now who's like, that sounds great. Having my own business would be really great. I have no idea what I would do for business. So do you ever have clients that stumble upon your path that are like, I think need some help. I want to build something, but I have no idea what to do or where to start?
So I've actually had clients come where they think they want to do something in their business or launch a particular division within their business, only to find out that it's not exactly what they thought it would be. And through my questionnaire, they would discover these things, because again, how many times do you really have a chance to sit down and think about all kinds of questions that perhaps you've never even knew to ask yourself about starting a business? And so that is what actually inspired me to launch the Iconic Brand Blueprint workbook that I have. And it's a consulting level type of workbook where it guides customers, clients through this process, from naming your business and the things to consider, all the way through the checklist and everything in between: branding, business strategy, the setting up your core foundation of your business, everything you can think of. It's kind of like a business kit in a box, if you will, because what I discovered was, again, it's just, there are so many gaps that we don't know to think about. And I mean, quite honestly, I was figuring out things along the way. I had never launched my own business, But I knew that there were essentials, and I knew that if I focused on those essentials, then the rest would come together. But again, that was only because I had my background and experience, and I know that that's not the common theme for most entrepreneurs.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so hard to see what we can't see. We really need help with that. There's a phrase, and anybody who listens to the podcast regularly is going to be like, oh, there's that phrase again, Lisa. Because I throw it out there all too often. But it's like you can't read the label when you're inside the jar.
I
So,
mean, I think we all have blind spots.
right.
Blind spots, whether it's just pure ignorance, you have no idea, or blind spots that there's a different perspective someone else is seeing or their experiences that they are able to share with you so that you can take that wisdom and then run in that direction, that you don't have to learn a hard lesson. My hope for this book was to really help eliminate a lot of those unnecessary bumps in the road and those pieces of putting a business together that are so critical and foundational. And that's essentially what helped my clients realize, wait, actually, I don't want to launch that business anymore, because I realized that this is what it would entail. And I never stopped to think about A, B, C, D, and E. And, it brings me such joy knowing that people are learning and they're not also spending weeks taking a course. And it's just something that I think is so important, is just asking ourselves the questions. Start there. Build the business first before you brand it.
Such good advice. Such good advice, Cynthia. What is one of the things about that process that most lights you up?
Well, I think the first thing, in case someone's listening and they're not really even sure what a brand is really the perception that others have about you, whether it's you and it's a personal brand or it's your business. It's really understanding that everyone essentially has a brand, whether we know it or not. Because if I just were to say to you, think of one of your friends that is so funny, immediately someone would come to mind, right? Think of someone that you can go to or call in the middle of the night because they will answer. Again, somebody else will come to mind. And so that essentially is what happens with businesses, of course. And what I walk my clients through is, okay, so if you have this product or service, what are the differentiators about your product or service that could really draw your target audience to be intrigued by what it is that you're offering, and then to really set you apart to be different. And so that you're the one that they're constantly referring or they're going to because they trust. And I think at the end of the day, the most successful brands are the ones that you absolutely trust. It takes years to build trust, and it takes a moment to have that completely destroyed. The brand is what I like to call the pretty part, the packaging, if you will. But at the same time, it's really important because word of mouth goes into that, right? And so it's how people are remembering you, how they're describing you, the things that they're saying about you, and the people that are interacting with you. They can become your best brand ambassadors, but a brand ambassador nevertheless, whether it's good or not so good.
And maybe much like a mission statement or a vision statement, your brand can also help you limit your choices so you can make sure you're staying on track. My husband and I were having a coffee chat the other day, just kind of sitting out on the deck talking. We were talking about creativity and how much freedom there is in creativity. And he said something so brilliant that I just think is really relative to this. He said, drawing a box ignites creativity. And I thought, wow, because the box that you draw, in this case, the brand, limits or niches you into a particular space. So now you can be really creative because you don't have every option at your fingertips. You've got specific options, which actually does create more energy around creativity. So that's kind of what you're helping people do, create that brand so they know what they're being, who they're putting out there into the world, and what kind of products or services that they're delivering.
Yes, and it's such a fun process because really it's a chance to showcase the product or service, the personality of it and who it's for. The most successful businesses know exactly who they're trying to target. That's why there are certain brands that will never put an advertisement on the TV, because they know that their audience is not either watching those shows or they're maybe not even watching TV. And so they know how to target them and find where those consumers are and then be able to advertise successfully and effectively. And I think that's a common issue, is we think that we're supposed to be everywhere at the same time, especially if our competitors are there, whether it's on social media and all the platforms. But the reality is, no, you don't, because you don't want to just, start throwing money everywhere and then hope it just kind of works out. But if you're very strategic, then your money could go so much farther and faster than you could ever imagine.
Right. Very good point. Might as well spend your money where it's most useful instead of spreading the peanut butter too thin. So let's shift gears just really quick. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on brand development, maybe personal brand development for somebody who is maybe not in business, or maybe they're employed by someone else. How might you coach somebody in that kind of situation?
Well, it's then that comes down to the person. And I think whether you're creating a personal brand online for your own reasons, or it's just something that you're developing in your career, I think essentially it's the same thing.
Hmm.
Um, I think the most beautiful personal brands are the ones that are the most authentic to who they are and not trying to be someone you're not, because I think we really underestimate the viewer's savviness. When you see someone, you're just like, it doesn't feel right, and there's something off. And I think that works against people all the time. But when you meet someone and you're like, wow, they're just so genuine, I would say that should carry over to, your goal for that personal brand. And then figuring out what your core values are. What is it that you stand for? What are your beliefs? What are the things that are non-negotiables? Because that is how people start to get to know you, whether you plan to reveal those or not. It will be seen in some way, shape, or form through communication, through your interpersonal relationships, what your coworkers are saying about you, the way that your boss experiences you as an employee, and so forth. Those are really important things because, again, the most effective brands are the ones that are right on target. And so if you are just being you and you want to showcase that, then you're going to come to the table and you're just going to lay that all out so that people just know this is who I am. And you don't have to force it, though. I think that's key. I think so many times, even on social media, the trends of trying to force yourself to do something, to jump on this trend, to try to get followers this way and that way actually works against you if that doesn't fit with that brand that you're representing, with your business. There were certain things that I was just absolutely not going to do, even though they were cute and they worked for other businesses, but it was not going to be cute for my business. My clients would have been like, what in the world is she doing, And I don't want to list out those trends, but again, they work for some people, and I think they actually hurt others. And so I think, quite honestly, we have found ourselves now more in this social media culture where those are not as popular anymore because people eventually started to realize it doesn't necessarily work for me and I probably shouldn't do that. And so those are the things to just keep in mind is just be consistent, be authentic, be true to your values, know what your values are. And at the end of the day, I'm just a really big fan of your character. Like, what does your character say about you? And those are the things that no matter what someone else wants to say about you, those that know you, those who have interacted with you will just know, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. Something must be off with this story.
Yeah, so true. Well, and whether you're building a business or you're just wanting to build a personal brand for maybe future employment or future volunteer opportunities or whatever it may be, I think how we put ourselves out into the world makes a big difference. You mentioned that word authenticity, and I think you're right. Human beings have this sixth sense that I don't know what's wrong, but something's not quite right. And it's like, it's that gut feel. We can't always put our finger on it, but we just know that it doesn't feel quite real or authentic. I wish I was a little better at that with the discerning between AI videos and real videos. I haven't quite gotten that yet. Some of those look so real, but yeah, but
They do.
it's that sixth sense that just something doesn't quite seem authentic in this case. Let's pivot a little bit to the whole dynamic between who I think I am and who the world thinks I am, or who I am professionally versus who I think I am personally. And how do you coach your clients when all of a sudden they kind of get that revelation that those things are not aligned or not congruent?
Well, when it comes from the business perspective, I have them like kind of sit down and, answer the questions.
Yeah.
And then we have a consulting call and we're going through them. And I'm asking further questions because what I have found is that honestly, sometimes you just need someone to listen and ask questions back to you. so that you can begin to process it. And again, we get so caught up in life and there's so much to do. And I completely understand that. There was a reason why I couldn't even launch my own website, because I didn't have the time to do it, even though it was important. And that's what I did for a living. So I knew the value and importance of that. But I also know that, we will hit different points in our life, whether personally or in business, where sometimes we're forced to stop and reevaluate things or assess things. And other times, I think that they're just kind of, grace gifts where you have the moment to just pause, but you're not forced to. You can just take advantage of that moment and be able to go, okay, what is not aligning right now? And what is it that I feel that is off? And as you mentioned, we really all do have that, quote unquote, sixth sense. I think what happens sometimes is that we've learned to ignore it because either we were told, no, you're wrong, you're crazy, or we didn't see something maybe immediately and we second guessed. But what if there's something different that you just can't see? Maybe you just need to pause because there's something that's catching your attention and it's worth, evaluating and just sitting with it. And we're such in a rushed kind of society that we don't take the time to just slow down. And one of the things that I've learned as a business owner is I can't rush at the speed that I want to with my business. It has its own rhythm and flow, as does my life. And sometimes they are not aligned. So I have to prioritize and figure out, okay, what's important for me? But that's where my values come in. That's when I'm like, okay, maybe I need to slow down with the business and I need to tend to, motherhood things or as a wife. And I am constantly, weekly, if not almost daily, just assessing how are things going for me, because I don't want to live in a rushed kind of world because I'm the one that's creating it for me. I'm the one that's creating my schedule. And so there's so much more power in our hands that we even realize or sometimes willing to acknowledge. And you can really create the life or the lifestyle that you desire. And that's, again, where you start back at the blueprint, the foundation, whether it's business or personal, and you start with those core values and your priorities and all of those things. Those are the things that start to guide everything you do.
Exactly, because you can't build a life you love if you don't know what you love.
Or if you hate what you're doing, you're never
Right.
going to get to the love part.
Right. Let's just acknowledge that this whole life is one great big I don't know. And it's an I don't know until you step into it and experience it. But then sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to step back and take a different step. And it's like, there's that sunk cost fallacy that what people think, well, I've already put so much time into it that I have to proceed forward. When really you don't. 5 years from now, you're going to be really glad you made a shift. So kind of looking out at our future person and seeing if that's a business you really want to build your life and your family around or not.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too to keep in mind, and I would encourage anyone listening, is it's your life at the end of the day. And that sounds so simple, but you get one shot at it. And the one thing that I had decided so many years ago was I am an adult and I get to plan my schedule and I get to choose the things that I want to be a part of and the relationships that I want to take part in. And if things are not aligning, sometimes I don't understand in the moment, but I know to stop and assess, because sometimes we're forced to assess and go, okay, something's chaotic. I know that one of my values is I want to live a peaceful life as much as I can. I can't control what's going on in this world. I can't control the things that happen or come my way, but I can control my schedule and I can pace myself and I can control certain things. And so it's really just knowing your power and what you can control and what you can't. And so I'm always thinking, how am I going to help myself today? I don't know what today brings, but I know, again, what I can and can't control. And then I just, lean into the rhythm and flow of the day before me.
And when you're coming from a place of peace, like you mentioned, if your life is built around peace, your fuse is a lot longer. You can handle a lot more complicated things or things that end up falling sideways, and you react much differently to them when you're eating well and sleeping well and have that peaceful foundation.
And you get to see a lot more. I've had tense moments with clients only to realize that there is more going on behind the scenes than what they're even trying to have a conversation with me about. I see this happen quite often with entrepreneurs, and I understand because, again, life is happening and sometimes we feel like we're just in survival mode. But if you have a chance to not be in survival mode and you recognize you're not in survival mode, then just kind of armor up and be ready, because you're going to get people that are disgruntled, that are unhappy, that are bitter, that are, so on and so forth. But you get to choose how you want to show up. And I think that when you're in business, it's all about relationships. And really, that's how life is. The world goes around because of relationships. People that can make your day and people that make you feel like you're ready to have it done with, right? And just,
Right.
but you don't get to choose who comes into your world that way. However, you get to choose how you want to show up in other people's stories and in their worlds. And that is something that I, again, hold as a value in my businesses. I just know that regardless if I'm working with someone or I'm not working with someone, I want them to be able to take away the experience that they had with me. And if that's what they remember, because most of the time it's not even necessarily of what they did for you, but you remember how someone made you feel. And that is something that I value and I treasure. And then I see the ripple effect that has, and not only that person's life, but they might just remember the grace that I extended to them in that moment.
Exactly. So well said, Cynthia. Before we started recording, you and I were just chatting a little bit about how it's almost a gift, a blessing to be able to pour positive back into the world. And we feel that way here on Sunshine Cafe for sure. And you were saying too, that just to be light in these people's lives, to open up their eyes to a new way of doing business, to save them some steps or some money on their business creation that they didn't realize they could. And some of that comes back to our faith. I know you and I share that grounded space in our Christianity. How does the faith aspect of your life play into your business and how you respond and work with customers?
Well, when I started my business, again, it wasn't a plan of mine, but I knew that no matter what God called me into, I wanted to make sure that I could represent him the best that I could. Because at the end of the day, I do feel like I'm his brand ambassador, and people are looking at me and they're experiencing Jesus, hopefully through me, in a more authentic way. No, I can't be perfect. I'm not going to be Jesus, but I'm going to try my hardest to do what I can that I know is right, and that would bring honor to the Lord. And that's how I operate in my business. And with the transparency and with my team and with my clients is, communication is a high value, because there are so many misunderstandings, and you don't even have to be in a disagreement or argument to have a misunderstanding. I mean, for my line of work, it comes down to even colors at times. When a client says, I love neutrals, I'm like, okay, there are so many colors that I could show you that would fall under this neutral category. What exactly do you mean? And what I've discovered, and it's been so fun, as I've taken clients through this process, I remember one client in particular that was, I like neutrals, so let's do neutrals. And I said, okay, well, what does that consist of for you? And so that was one of the questions in my questionnaire. And it was so funny because as we were going through the process and I presented a couple different brand identities, they were drawn to something that wasn't necessarily how we would define neutral. And that was the beginning of them realizing, wait, maybe what I thought I liked actually isn't that. It's something different. I just take that concept and I use it in life. I think about that for people all the time in my line of work and just as I'm coming alongside of them in life. And I always think, how can I help someone leave my presence just a little more encouraged, a little more full of hope? Even if I can't, for example, help someone, if I'm going to refer them out, I'm still going to give them a great referral, or I'm going to point them in the right direction. Give them a suggestion. Do I have to? Am I under contract for that? No. Did I get paid for it? Nope. But I know that God always brings it back to me beyond what I even give out. And so I just operate with, hey, I have an audience of one that I am truly living for, and I want to walk before authentically, because I could fool man, but I can't fool God. And at the end of the day, I know that my husband and my son are my real witnesses of who I am, and never do I want them to, think in their minds, these people think she's one way, but if they only live with her. And so they're the ones that motivate me all the time. And I use them as my accountability to be that woman that my husband's going to be so proud to have as a wife one day when we're 90 years of age, hopefully. And then my son, one day he's going to grow up and get married. I want him to be able to know how to choose a wife. I want him to have a good example. And I want him to also feel healthy and supported as a child's growing up. And so everything we do impacts so many other things that we do in life. Whether you have your business, whether you're having a conversation, whether you're leading a ministry, whatever it is, wherever it is that God has placed you, that is an opportunity for you to shine the light, but also for you to walk out your true character. And I think right now in this culture, in this time, there's just a lot that we're seeing that is very disheartening.
Mhm.
And I think that if we focus less about what people are doing that may not be bringing glory or honor to God's name, but instead focus on what can I do today with my neighbors, with those that are around me, that I could shine the light of Jesus. We could make a much bigger impact than those that we're seeing in the news or hearing on social media, because collectively we are far greater than individually.
Oh my goodness. Very well said. I couldn't say it better myself, Cynthia. Wow, I agree completely. That's beautifully said. Wow. Before we wrap up, I do want to be able to just kind of share with people how they can find you. But before we do that, what kind of final encouragements? I mean, you just kind of wrapped it up so beautifully. But if someone is looking to create a brand strategy or trying to figure out how to get their business to that whatever next level, it might just be starting, it might be bringing it to another level. What kind of encouragements would you give them today?
Well, I would love for them to reach out to me if once they look at my website and it seems like my services or even the iconic brand blueprint that you can find at thebrandstrategist.co, that is a great starting point. And even if it's the book and that book helps equip them for whatever is their best next step, I'm such an advocate of just do what feels in the best alignment for you and your business and your budget. And so I know that I can't work with everyone with my services, but I can reach a lot more through my book and at least give them that starting point that maybe they've never had.
Mm.
That is a great way when it comes to business, because that book is really this business and brand in a kit, if you will. And it's a DIY, but it's at your pace, of course. And it's a book that you can go to again and again and again because of just everything that you're going to be able to write in there, the questions. Again, I use this for my clients when I'm working with them. And I give a lot of insight. So it's, of course, aesthetically beautiful and visually pleasing because I want it to be something that people are excited about, to work on their business, because it really is such a privilege to live in this country where we get to have businesses of our own. And we're not dictated as to where we have to work or what our life has to look like. We have such incredible freedom here. And I think it's such a gift. And so it is just a tool and a resource that I've created for entrepreneurs, again, inspired after years of working with clients. But I would say that, aside from just that in a practical business sense, I would say just evaluate where you are in your life right now. Because maybe you're a new mom and you're dreaming of having a business one day, but it feels overwhelming. And I've known moms that have tried to do all of it.
Mm.
Again, there's no right path, but I think that if you can be authentic and honest with yourself to go, this isn't the right time as much as I want to do it, I have found that when I just trust God's timing, it works out so much better. Again, I never planned to have my own business. In fact, I was working for a small business in marketing that the Lord just showed me, you're not going to be here long. And I resigned and I stepped away. Nothing happened. It was just, I had no peace about working there, only to find out that just in a year or two, God was going to bring this business and birth this business beyond what I could have imagined. And when I thought that business that I was working for was like it, and I was so happy, I would now later realize God literally had something so much better for me that I had no idea, truly no idea would be unfolding for me. But we have to take that step of faith. We have to take that first step. And whether it means, you know what, I'm just going to wait until the time is right, or I'm going to reach out, I'm going to seek some counsel, I'm going to talk to some business owners, especially in your own niche or the industry. Get a feel of what it's like to have a business, because it's very much glamorized and romanticized. And then when you're in it, you have the brutal awakening. And my hope is that, at least, yes, it's going to be hard work, but you're not completely caught off guard about the expectations and the things that are required. Because there is so much to running a business, running a podcast, as you know. There's so many things that people do not ever see and have no idea that go into the back end of it. I wish it was just my team and I just doodling and designing sites and brand identities, but there's so much that I'm managing on the back end that has to run. And so really just be honest with where you're at in life and evaluate your strengths, assess them. What am I good at? What do people say that I'm good at? And then being realistic with your budget, because let's be real, money does kind of make the world go round, or at least in our business. Sometimes you don't need to overinvest. Sometimes there is a risk required, far greater than your comfort, but most of the time there's not. There's different ways. There's strategic ways. Nonprofits know about this because they have to expand their money in as many ways as possible, because they know that there is a cap with the donors or whatnot. And so I think if we just get a little bit more strict about what the reality is for where we're at, I think so many more people would find the true business or even jobs that are really aligned with who they've been designed to be, with their strengths and their gifts and everything, and the businesses that they really would be very, very excited and fulfilled doing. God has a plan for everyone, very unique to who He made each of us to be.
So true. And that's wonderful advice, whether you're going to go look for a job or create a business and create the job yourself. Wonderful advice. And Cynthia, I'll make sure that all the links for your website are in the show notes here so people can easily find you. And just really, it's just been a delight to have you on the show. So thank you for your time and just sharing a little bit about your business and your world with me and my audience. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Cynthia will surprise you. Her kindness and her wisdom wrapped in experience is going to draw out the ideas and unexpected truths that will guide your life. And I just loved having that conversation with her. From today's conversation, I have 5 powerful takeaways for you. Number 1, build the foundation before you build the brand. Before creating the logo, the website, the business, or even the next big thing on your list, clearly identify your values. Get really clear on your strengths. Identify what matters most to you and where you want to be in X number of years. These steps seem simple, but they will create the foundation that you need to build something authentic and fully aligned with who God made you to be. Which leads me to number 2. Number 2, wherever God has you, you get the opportunity to represent something far bigger than just yourself. Whether you're building a business, raising a family, leading a team, or serving your community, your character is going to speak louder than your words. How you respond means far more than even what you're responding to. You get to be light and life to others. And when you're fully aligned with God's plan, you will be that light exactly when someone else really needs it. Number 3, your blueprint is unique to you. So please, do not judge yourself about not doing it the way he did or she did, or all the different ways we like to compare ourselves. Yes, learn and understand how someone else found success in whatever area you're interested in, but then give yourself permission to make it your own. Success is not a simple copy and paste process. Your path is going to look very different because you have unique gifts. You have different timing. You have different family commitments and influences, and a calling that will most certainly be different than the example you're following. So take what you can, leave the rest, and make success your own. Number 4, you cannot build a life you love if you don't know what you love. I don't know why, but this one is surprisingly difficult for all of us, especially if you are the kind of person who tends to take care of other people and do what other people need to make their lives better. So if you don't know what you love, or if you don't know what you want to pursue, what dreams you have, you need a good, long pause. And that pause needs to be long enough to ask yourself some really hard questions. And you need to give yourself a little permission to wrestle with the answers. Try on those dreams, my friend. See how each one of them feels when you really imagine exactly what that might look like if you were in that reality. Pay attention to how you feel when that reality is on yourself. Does it light you up? Does it align with your values and your desired level of busy? Or do you sense it kind of stresses you out? Does it make you excited? Does it align you with what God created you to be? Then, after you've done that exercise, walk away and come back to it in another day or so. Then do it again. This is a slow process of pause, ponder, pray, and then reflect. But if you do these steps, you will get your answers, and then you will know exactly what it is that you love and maybe where your next dream is taking you. And that's the start of a really great vision for your life. And finally, number 5, authenticity. Genuine authenticity creates trust. People may not remember every detail about what you said, but they will remember exactly how you made them feel. And even in this crazy world we're in right now, filled with fraud and scams and AI and half-truths, people, when they actually stop and look, can sense when something is genuine or when there's just something not quite right. You may not know why it's not right, but we know when things are just not quite right. So, to that point, I invite you to slow down, especially for the things that are really important in life. Slow down and notice if something feels off. We are called, my friends, to be wise, not to be foolish. We are called to be vigilant and cautious, so we are not brainwashed or otherwise swayed and manipulated in ways we don't want to be. And that kind of wisdom requires us to pause and assess, pray, and pay attention. Hey friends, thank you for stopping by the Sunshine Cafe today. I hope this conversation with Cynthia was encouraging and gave you some ideas for how you can align your life and your business with God's plan for you. Until next time, stay aligned with your passion, with the talents and gifts that God has given you, and encourage somebody in your circle today. Together, we can be the light and pour a little more sunshine back into the world. I'll look forward to seeing you right back here next week at the Sunshine Cafe.